Chapter 481, Good Potential. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Dr. Min was stunned. Back then, it was because of Jianheng and Ning Bai L's interference that he had no choice but to find an excuse to give the Xiao family half a day to transfer money. He had already violated medical ethics once, so why was this family still causing trouble? Dr. Min's expression became a little gloomy. The Xiao family knows Deputy Dean Mr. Zhang's family. Moreover, didn't you say last time that as long as they can fork out the money, you won't pester them about this anymore? Jiang Wan is only 8 years old now, but Xiaoli is about to turn 10 years old. Ning Bai frowned when she heard this. She was a little angry that the other party was comparing her daughter to a country bumpkin. Jiang Wan wasn't someone a countryside girl could compare to. Even the commander of the military's art team praised Jiang Wan for being a good dancer. If not for the accident last year, she wouldn't have wasted so much time. Now, they had to hurry up and let her start dancing again. However, facing this expert who was the best at ophthalmology surgery in S-City, Ning Bai still had to be patient. Dr. Min, I hope you can understand how worried parents are about their children. As long as the surgery hasn't been done, we won't be able to relax. As for Deputy Dean Mr. Zhang, you don't have to worry about it, as long as you think of a way to silence the Xiao family. It wasn't a secret in the hospital that the dean and vice dean didn't get along, so Dr. Min used this to test the other party's power. After all, the Zhang family backed Deputy Dean Mr. Zhang. The other parties tolerated it last time, so if they caused trouble again, it would be a little disrespectful to the Zhang family. The strength of the two families wasn't much different, so why should the Zhang family give in twice in a row? This time, they might not be willing to suffer in silence. After all, the Zhang family's in-laws were not to be trifled with either. Moreover, Dr. Min hated people who didn't take others' lives seriously. Not to mention that Jiang Wan had the time to wait for the next donor, and it wasn't their turn yet. Which parent wouldn't be anxious to treat their child? Jianheng glanced at Dr. Min, who was clearly irked. He pursed his lips tightly and said without regard for the other party's displeasure, "You've been the director for a long time, right? Don't you want to move up the ranks? Speaking of which, my father and the dean are old comrades who have been through life and death together. Otherwise, we wouldn't have chosen to come to your hospital." Jianheng's tone was very aloof but threatening. Dr. Min tightened his grip on his pen. He had been in this position for 10 years. His wife thought that he was incompetent since he couldn't be promoted even after so long. Every time he went to his in-law's house during the New Year or festive season, he would always be compared to his son-in-law's neighbor. How could he not want to be promoted? However, Dr. Min thought of the joy on the faces of the Xiao family's 3 siblings when they found out that they met the surgery criteria. He really couldn't bear to crush the hopes of this family. After all, no one knew when there would be a next donor, and with Xiaoli's age, this was very likely their family's last chance. Jianheng could tell that Dr. Min was conflicted and snorted. He felt that Dr. Min wanted benefits but didn't want to be a bad person either. One couldn't have cake and eat it too. Dr. Min, every man for himself. You're already in your 40s. Are you going to be the director for another 10 years? Are you going to watch helplessly as young people rise up and order you around? I'll bring Jiang Wan to the hospital for a checkup tomorrow morning. After the checkup, perform the surgery as soon as possible. Our family's time is very precious. Jianheng was certain that Dr. Min would think of a way to cancel Xiaoli's surgery for the sake of his future. After saying this, he left with his wife. Not many people would go to the hospital during the New Year, so the office was very quiet. Dr. Min sat in the office for a long time. Miss Zhao knocked on the open door with the report. "Dr. Min, Xiaoli's report is out." Dr. Min came back to his senses when he heard the voice. "All right, give it to me." After Dr. Min took the report and looked at it seriously, he said, "Her situation is quite good." Miss Zhao smiled and said happily, "That's great." The 3 of them lost their parents when they were young and relied on Xiaoxing to support them. Now, they finally have hope. Dr. Min's eyes flickered when he heard this and he tightened his grip on the report. Announcement: we are moving boxnovel.com to bronovel.com. Please bookmark our new site. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Subscribe and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much. Chapter 482, Waiting for the Notification. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Miss Zhao thought of Xiaoxing and hurriedly said, "Dr. Min, the surgery will be at 9 tomorrow morning, right? I'll inform the family in advance." As Miss Zhao turned around excitedly, Dr. Min hesitated for a moment before calling out to her, "Don't be anxious. I'll reconsider the exact time. Wait for my notice." Miss Zhao was a little puzzled. Usually, after the results were out, the family would be informed a day in advance. However, when she saw that Dr. Min didn't look too happy, she didn't ask. Okay. When Xiaoxing returned to get water, he saw Miss Zhao return to the nurse's station. He went forward and asked, "Miss Zhao, did Dr. Min say how my sister's checkup result is?" Looking at Xiaoxing's handsome face, Miss Zhao blushed a little and she replied gently, "Don't worry, Brother Xiao. Dr. Min said that Xiaoli's condition is quite good." Xiaoxing didn't notice Miss Zhao's abnormality since he was too focused on the surgery. When he heard this, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he asked expectantly, "Then the surgery is tomorrow, right?" Miss Zhao froze for a moment before replying, "Wait for my notice." Xiaoxing felt a little uneasy when he heard this ambiguous answer. "Is there any problem?" Seeing that Xiaoxing was a little anxious, Miss Zhao felt dejected that she had not been of much help. She thought for a moment and replied, "I'll ask again later. Perhaps it's because of the operating theater's usage time or the nursing department's schedule. They're probably determining the schedule. Don't think too much about it." Xiaoxing didn't know the specifics, so when he heard this, he nodded at Miss Zhao with a smile. "Miss Zhao, sorry to trouble you." Xiaoxing's smile mesmerized Miss Zhao. When she came back to her senses, she shook her head repeatedly and replied shyly, "It's fine. I'll tell you after I ask. By the way, is the girl who came to see Xiaoli a relative of yours?" The reason Miss Zhao thought that Yu Bing was a relative of the Xiao family was that everyone felt that coming to the hospital during the new year was inauspicious, so they wouldn't come unless they were close relatives. Miss Zhao realized that Yu Bing looked delicate and fair, like a girl who had been educated in the city. She thought that if they were all in S-City, she could interact more in the future. This way, she could befriend the people around Xiaoxing and maintain a relationship with Xiaoxing. Xiaoxing froze before realizing that she was talking about Yu Bing. Because their relationship had yet to be officially confirmed, Xiaoxing replied according to the reason on the village's permission slip, "She's an intellectual in our village. She came on a business trip for the factory. When she found out that Xiaoli was undergoing surgery, she came to visit." When Miss Zhao heard this, she felt a sense of crisis. However, since Xiaoxing said that they were from the same village, she must be just here to take a look, so she shouldn't worry too much about it. She smiled at Xiaoxing sweetly. In that case, she's really diligent. She's still so busy even during the new year. Xiaoxing smiled, but didn't continue the conversation. "Then I'll go in first. Let me know if there's any news." When Xiaoxing entered the ward, Xiaoli was talking to Xiaolin. Yu Bing seemed distracted. After Xiaoxing placed the kettle in his hand on the table beside Xiaoli's bed, he saw the few chocolates on the table and he asked curiously, "Where did these chocolates come from?" Xiaoli smiled as she replied, "This is from Sister Zhao." Sister Zhao referred to Miss Zhao. When Xiaoli was first hospitalized, she and Xiaolin called her the nurse at first, but the other party took the initiative to ask them to call her differently and they didn't mind. After all, it was just an address. Xiaoxing frowned. "Xiaoli, don't accept other people's things. These are very expensive." Because the domestic market wasn't open to foreign countries, foreign products like chocolate weren't cheap. Xiaolin explained, "We rejected her, but Sister Zhao said that today is the first day of the new year. It wasn't good to reject other people's gifts during the new year, so Xiaoxing didn't say anything else." Yu Bing glanced at Xiaoxing, who didn't notice anything amiss, and pursed her lips as she said angrily, "Why blame them? They didn't call her over." When Xiaoxing heard Yu Bing's resentful words, he turned his head slightly. He didn't know if Yu Bing was angry or not, but he thought for a moment and explained, "I don't blame them. I was just asking." When Yu Bing saw Xiaoxing's innocent expression, her anger dissipated. If she had to blame someone, she could only blame his handsome face. He himself wasn't the problem. Thus, she didn't harp on this matter anymore. Announcement: we are moving boxnovel.com to bronovel.com. Please bookmark our new site. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Subscribe and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much. Chapter 483, Support. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Because of Dr. Min's words, Wei and Chen Shi took the comic book away when they got to work in the afternoon. Oli made a fuss over it for a long time, and Madame O had just appeased him. "Mom." After Chen Shi appeared in the ward, she called out to Madame O sadly. When Madame O saw her daughter-in-law's expression, she frowned and looked at her grandson, who had finally fallen asleep. Then, she rolled her eyes and walked towards Chen Shi as she scolded softly, "Who are you crying for? Our family's luck is about to be scared away by you." Although her mother-in-law said this, Chen Shi couldn't suppress her sadness. "Mom, Oli's eyes are screwed. His vision is declining now, and after that, he will be blind." Madame O slapped Chin-Shi hard and scolded, "Is there a mother like you? You're cursing your son like this during the new year. Do you think you can lord over our family just because you gave birth to Oli?" Chin-Shi looked at Madame O with red eyes as she shook her head. "Mom, when I was at work just now, I heard from my colleague that conjunctiva cysts don't have to be operated on. Dr. Min is a quack. Now that Oli has undergone surgery, Oli's vision has worsened even though his cyst is gone. My colleague said that he'll go blind next. That's why we immediately applied for leave and rushed back." When Madame O heard this, her body swayed twice. After she held onto the end of the empty bed opposite Xiaoli, she finally stopped. "Oh my God. What should we do? Where's Owei?" "When Owei and I came, we discussed that we can't let this quack off. Oli's life is ruined, so we have to make him pay and promise to support Oli for the rest of his life." When Madame O heard this plan, she nodded repeatedly. "Yes, your decision is correct." As Yu Bing listened to the O family's plan, she was baffled. They actually listened to their colleague instead of the doctor? Even if she really suspected Dr. Min's medical skills and was worried that the child wasn't temporarily blind as he had said, she should bring the child to another hospital to get checked and hear what the other doctors had to say before making plans instead of jumping to conclusions from insignificant evidence. She wanted to settle scores without even verifying it first. Xiaoxing frowned when he heard their conversation. Madame O suddenly remembered that the hospital was their territory, so how could Owei be a match for the quack? She narrowed her eyes and said, "Chen. We have to help too. There are so many doctors and nurses in this hospital, so Owei is not their match on his own." Chin-Shi reacted and replied, "Then let's hurry up and go provide support." The two of them hurriedly left the ward. Yu Bing looked at Oli, who was sleeping soundly on the bed, and shook her head. Previously, they treated him with such attentiveness. Now, they actually left the child here all alone. Xiaoxing sneered and said, "His greatest value now is probably to give them an excuse to ask for compensation." When Yu Bing heard this, she also felt that family's actions gave off such a feeling. She looked at Oli, who was spoiled yet abandoned by his family, with pity. When Yu Bing turned around and saw the same look on Xiaoxing's face, the two of them thought of something. Xiaoxing instructed Xiaolin with a serious expression, "Xiaolin, keep an eye on Xiaoli. I'll go out for a while." When Xiaolin saw his brother's serious expression, he nodded. "Brother, don't worry." Yu Bing left the ward with Xiaoxing. Dr. Min had just finished going to the bathroom. When he came out of the bathroom, he met Owei, who was looking for him. Owei pushed Dr. Min into the empty ward beside him. He knew that an argument in the corridor would definitely attract other medical staff, and he was on his own now. Owei explained the theory he had heard and raised his request. Dr. Min looked at Owei as he explained helplessly, Oli's conjunctiva cyst was caused by repeated conjunctivitis. Moreover, when you brought him here for a checkup, he had to undergo surgery as soon as possible. If he didn't, he would have gone blind. Owei believed the news he had received, so he grabbed Dr. Min's collar and punched him. "You're a quack. My colleague's relative didn't undergo surgery, but he healed on his own. Check up my ass. You think you can say whatever you want since in any case, ordinary people like us can't understand." Announcement: we are moving boxnovel.com to bronovel.com. Please bookmark our new site. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Subscribe and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much. Chapter 484, Guilt. Translator, Eilenyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Dr. Min was a scholar, so how could he withstand Owei's punch? He was knocked to the ground and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. As he looked at the stubborn Owei, he became a little angry. Everyone's physical condition is different. He's not a doctor, so how can he determine that Oli will go blind without even knowing anything about his physical condition? But you actually believed him. If you don't believe me, take the medical report to the other hospitals. Owei looked at Dr. Min, who was struggling to get up, and snorted. You're all birds of a feather. Don't try to stall for time. Write a confession letter and a guarantee that you'll give half of your salary to our family as compensation every month. The O family was an unreasonable family to begin with. Moreover, this had already escalated into a medical dispute. Dr. Min wanted to leave first and call the medical department to deal with it, but Owei was blocking the door and he couldn't get through at all. In the end, he could only continue to negotiate with him and find an opportunity to leave. Then do as I say and take care of Oli first. Then, you'll be able to see if Oli loses his sight or not. If he doesn't, look for me again. My job is here, so I won't escape. Of course, Owei knew that he could find Dr. Min, but he would feel more at ease with dirt on him. Wei was rude and uncultured, but he knew that he would be detained for beating someone. He was a factory worker. If he had a criminal record, even if he wasn't fired, he definitely wouldn't get a promotion, salary raise, or other benefits in the future. Therefore, he had to get a confession this time. This way, the other party would listen to whatever he said, unless he didn't want to continue working in the medical world. Wei wasn't stupid. He had already expected this response. If he waited for something to happen to Li's eyes before looking for him, Dr. Min would know that he would settle scores with him. Even if Dr. Min didn't hide, he would be on guard. At that time, he would be the one in trouble. Upon seeing Dr. Min's sorry state, Wei took out the paper and pen he had obtained from the operating table and slapped it on the bed. Stop playing tricks. Write it down. Wei was very aggressive. Dr. Min wasn't in the wrong, but he was being pressured. Dr. Min lost his temper and said, "My diagnosis is right. Why should I write a confession? There are several reasons for the formation of conjunctiva cysts. You guys are the irresponsible ones for not letting Li have surgery in time. As parents, you guys didn't take proper care of him after the surgery, causing his condition to worsen. I haven't even criticized you guys for it yet." Dr. Min couldn't write it. If he wrote it, his life would be ruined. The family was very cunning. With this, he would be under their control for the rest of his. Wei rolled up his sleeves and said, "You're shirking responsibility? If you won't write it, I'll beat you until you write it." Wei punched Dr. Min twice more. Bruises instantly appeared at the corners of Dr. Min's mouth and eyes. Dr. Min felt very disheartened. The patient didn't obey the doctor's orders, and the patient's family was unreasonable. Powerful people could play dirty tricks and manipulate his patients at will. As a doctor, he didn't even receive the most basic respect. In fact, he had encountered these sorts of things many times already. The oath he had read with his classmates on the day he graduated from medicine seemed meaningless at this moment. Dr. Min suddenly was fed up with his identity. When Dr. Min was picked up by the collar and pressed against the wall again, he looked at Wei coldly. "If you want to make a fuss, go ahead. At most, I won't be a doctor anymore. I don't care who you tell. There's nothing wrong with my diagnosis." Wei was impulsive. Now that he heard Dr. Min's words, his anger that had subsided rose again. "All right. Then I'll cripple your hands. As you wish, I'll make sure you can't go on the operating table or be a doctor anymore." Wei let go of Dr. Min's collar and pulled Dr. Min's forearm before pressing it against the nearest bedside table. Then, he pulled a four-sided stool on the ground with his other hand and raised it high. When Dr. Min saw this, his eyes widened slightly and he wanted to pull his hand away, but the difference in their strength was too great. He couldn't break free. At the critical moment, the door was pushed open. A person kicked Wei to the bed at the side, and the chair he raised smashed into him. Announcement: we are moving boxnovel.com to bronovel.com. Please bookmark our new site. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Subscribe and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much. Chapter 485, Medical Dispute. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Hubby. When Shin-Shi and Grandma O saw Wei being beaten up, they immediately shouted and rushed into the ward. Yu Bing followed them into the ward. When she saw Dr. Min, who was standing at the side and panting, she went forward and said, "Dr. Min, let's go out first." Dr. Min came back to his senses and nodded. Just as he was about to leave, Grandma O looked up and saw him. Grandma O rushed to the door and stopped them. "Since you guys injured my son, no one can leave." This commotion attracted the attention of the medical staff on this floor. "What's going on?" "I don't know. I heard someone arguing previously. I thought it was a patient's family." "Hey, isn't that Dr. Min?" When Grandma O saw the surrounding crowd, she closed the door and pointed at Xiaoxing as she scolded, "You country bumpkin, how dare you hit my son? Let me tell you, I'm a local. I know people in the police station. If you dare to offend me, I'll get someone to arrest you and send you to do labor reform." Xiaoxing turned around and looked at Grandma O coldly without saying anything. Grandma O, who wanted to continue shouting, was suddenly a little afraid. She slowly lowered her finger, but she still refused to relent. "This has nothing to do with you. If you leave now, we'll pretend that nothing happened." When Grandma O saw the blank paper on the bed, she knew that Wei had not convinced Dr. Min, so the most important thing now was to get the confession letter first. Yu Bing didn't have the patience. Dr. Min was going to perform surgery on Shaoli tomorrow, so what if it affected his performance? They had to end things quickly. Yu Bing took 2 steps forward and hugged Grandma from behind. The old lady was only 1.5 meters tall and had a thin figure, so it wasn't difficult to carry her. Yu Bing turned around and shouted, "What are you waiting for? Doesn't your hospital protect doctors during medical disputes? Call the police." Grandma didn't expect Yu Bing to be so unyielding, and she struggled violently. "Let go of me, you little b***tch." Grandma's arm was grabbed. She wasn't tall or strong enough to break free, so she could only scold her. Wei watched as Xiaoxing stood at the side with the stool he had found previously. He held his waist, which felt like it was broken from the kick, and didn't dare to say anything else. Qinshi supported Wei as she stood at the side. She didn't dare to go forward to hit Xiaoxing or help her mother-in-law deal with Yu Bing. The medical staff quickly separated Dr. Min from the O family. The medical department also quickly sent people to resolve the O family's medical dispute. With the police here, things finally calmed down. The medical department proved that there was nothing wrong with Dr. Min's medical diagnosis. They also listed the mistakes the O family made when they didn't follow the doctor's instructions. Of course, the most important thing was that they proved that O Li's loss of vision was temporary. Xiaoxing hit Xiaoxing in self-defense. When Grandma O saw that there were really police officers, she was completely terrified and stood at the side meekly. Originally, the police wanted to arrest Wei and detain him for a few days, but the medical department negotiated with the O family and asked them to compensate Dr. Min with some medical fees before bringing Li out of the hospital. This was equivalent to lowering the punishment in exchange for peace in the hospital. Although Dr. Min felt aggrieved, he was willing to compromise in order to avoid future trouble. What happened wasn't a perfect solution, but at least things were resolved. Dr. Min said to Xiaoxing gratefully, "Xiaoxing, thank you so much this time. If my hand was really hit by a chair, I wouldn't have been able to perform surgery for the rest of my life." Although Dr. Min did want to give up previously, when he saw that the chair was about to fall, the fear of not being able to be a doctor anymore overcame him. At such a critical moment, Dr. Min discovered his answer to Jiang Heng's words in the afternoon. He also remembered his original intention for becoming a doctor. His utilitarian thoughts developed after experiencing the harsh realities of life. He didn't study medicine for the sake of fame and fortune. The reason he liked this profession was that medical skills could save more lives, so that more people could continue to see this beautiful world. Xiaoxing smiled and said, "It's good as long as you're fine. Your hand harbors the hope of many families. It can't be broken." When Dr. Min heard this, he was slightly moved. That's right. There were still family members who approved of them and cooperated with them. Recently, there had been too many worries in his work and life, so he had become a little pessimistic. Announcement: we are moving boxnovel.com to bronovel.com. Please bookmark our new site. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Subscribe and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much. Chapter 486, Bored and Pretentious. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. After this incident, Dr. Min decided to follow his principles in the future. Xiaoxing, Xiao Li's surgery is scheduled for 9 o'clock tomorrow. I'll go to the ward to look for you to sign the surgery consent form later and tell you some things to take note of before the surgery. Xiaoxing looked excited as he said, "Sorry to trouble you, Dr. Min. I'll wait for you in the ward." Dr. Min nodded with a smile before leaving. When Yu Bing heard the exact time, her eyes lit up. "We can rest assured now." Xiaoxing smiled and said, "That's right. Fortunately, we came in time this time. Otherwise, tomorrow's surgery wouldn't be able to happen." The next morning, Jiang Hang and Ning Bai brought Jiang Wan to the hospital confidently, but they received the news that Dr. Min was operating on Xiao Li. Jiang Hang's expression darkened. In the end, he left with his wife and daughter without saying a word. After the surgery, Xiao Li's eyes were covered with white gauze, and she could only take it off after 2 weeks. Then, according to the situation, the doctor would decide how long she would continue to be hospitalized for observation. Miss Zhao was Xiao Li's nurse, and she pushed Xiao Li into the ward. When she saw that Yu Bing was also there, the smile on her face froze slightly. She was a little puzzled as to why Yu Bing was here again today. However, she immediately regained her composure and smiled at Xiaoxing. "Brother Xiao, I'm here to deliver Xiao Li's first dose of medicine after surgery." Xiaoxing stood up and thanked her seriously. "Miss Zhao, it's been hard on you." As Miss Zhao stood in front of Xiaoxing, she lowered her head bashfully. "This is my job." Yu Bing watched with an impassive expression. Miss Zhao didn't take the medicine after saying that. Instead, Miss Zhao kept flirting with Xiaoxing. Yu Bing cursed Xiaoxing for attracting so much attention from girls. At this moment, Xiaoxing, who had been scolded by Yu Bing a few times, was wondering why Miss Zhao was wriggling in front of him. However, he didn't have much experience with girls and was very hesitant about reminding her to distribute the medicine quickly. In the end, Yu Bing couldn't stand it anymore and coughed lightly. Miss Zhao, there are so many types of medicine. Which one belongs to Xiaoli? When Miss Zhao came back to her senses, she looked at Yu Bing resentfully. She could already feel that Xiao Xing was about to say something to her just now, but he was interrupted by her. After Miss Zhao found the medicine bag with Xiao Li's name on it from the basket, she handed it to Xiao Xing with a smile. Xiao Xing felt that if he took it, he would definitely touch Miss Zhao's hand. Just as he was about to say something, Yu Bing interrupted him. Yu Bing was originally sitting by the bed. At this moment, she stood up and took a few steps forward. Then, she took the medicine and smiled as she said to Miss Zhao gently, "Let me do it. Xiao Xing is clumsy. If I'm not around next time, just put the medicine bag on the bedside table." Miss Zhao frowned and felt that Yu Bing was a little nosy. However, thinking about how she and Xiao Xing had yet to confirm their relationship, she couldn't object. She suppressed her displeasure and used Xiao Li's illness as an excuse to say a few words to Xiao Xing before leaving. After Xiao Xing sat down again, he felt a little scared by Yu Bing's ambiguous smile and revealed a fawning smile. However, Yu Bing didn't respond to him. She chatted with Xiao Li and Xiao Lin instead. They had to pay special attention to Xiao Li's diet during postoperative care. Now that Yu Bing was here, she was naturally in charge. After the cornea transplant, she couldn't eat raw, greasy, or spicy food. Xiao Lin accompanied Xiao Li in the hospital while Xiao Xing brought Yu Bing to the supply company around their residence to buy groceries. Along the way, Xiao Xing tried his best to find a topic to talk about. Yu Bing was also cooperative, but if Xiao Xing didn't take the initiative to chat, Yu Bing wouldn't have talked to him. Xiao Xing was anxious along the way. Then, the two of them returned home after buying veggies. Yu Bing filled a basin with cold water and prepared to wash the veggies, but Xiao Xing took over. "Don't touch this water. The tap water in this city isn't like well water. Be careful not to get frostbite." Hearing Xiao Xing's concerned words, Yu Bing smiled and deliberately asked, "How many girls have you said such sweet words to?" Xiao Xing turned on the tap and washed the vegetables slowly. He felt that Yu Bing's question was strange, but he didn't hesitate to answer, "Only you and Xiao Li. I don't have the time to mind other people's business." Yu Bing naturally believed Xiao Xing's words. She even knew Xiao Xing's answer the moment she asked, but she still wanted to ask and hear it from Xiao Xing. Yu Bing recalled that every time she watched television dramas and novels, she would feel that the female lead was boring and pretentious, but she didn't expect herself to become such a person one day. Announcement: we are moving boxnovel.com to bronovel.com. Please bookmark our new site. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Subscribe and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much. Chapter 487, Passive Income. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Yu Bing smiled, but didn't say anything else. She wasn't generous enough to help others confess to Xiao Xing. It was best not to expose this matter until they left, lest it cause trouble. Xiao Xing helped out as Yu Bing made 3 veggies and a soup dish. Yu Bing first used half a chicken to boil the soup. She placed red dates, ginseng, and other medicinal herbs inside in order to help replenish blood. She simmered it for an hour before putting the thick layer of golden chicken oil on the soup into the thermos. After the surgery, she had to get enough protein and vitamins, which could help improve her immune system and facilitate the recovery of the wound. Yu Bing stir-fried tomatoes, scrambled eggs, minced tofu, and boiled veggies with soy sauce. There were meat and vegetable dishes that were light but nutritious. After the food was ready, the two of them packed 2 portions to be sent to the hospital and placed a few oranges inside for Xiao Li to replenish her vitamin C. Then, they sat down in the living room and started eating. As Yu Bing sized up the 2-bedroom apartment with a small kitchen, she asked, "How much is the rent?" Xiao Xing looked up at the new house and said, 8 yuan a month. This house is one of the better ones in this area, but the bathroom is a little far. I have to run to the alley. Most of the old houses in S-City were like this. They used the public toilets in the alley. Many people found it inconvenient to go out at night, especially in winter. Every time they came out of bed, they needed a lot of courage. Therefore, they would put a bucket in their room to solve the problem. Yu Bing asked again, "Then why doesn't this family live in this house?" Xiao Xing recalled his conversation with the landlord. After the landlord's husband passed away, she remarried and moved into her husband's house. She wanted to rent out the old house to earn some rent. Yu Bing narrowed her eyes. This family's situation was complicated, so the possibility of them selling this house wasn't high. She could only wait until she had money before coming to see if there was a chance to buy another house. However, houses were fixed assets and wouldn't be cheap at any time. When Yu Bing thought about the little money she had, she suddenly felt the pressure to earn more money increase. When Xiaoxing saw Yu Bing narrowing her eyes in deep thought, he knew that she must be thinking of another way to earn money. He reached out to touch Yu Bing's head in amusement as he said aloofly, "What money-earning trick are you thinking of again?" Yu Bing chuckled. "I just think this house is quite good. If only I could buy a house that belongs to me." When Xiaoxing brought Yu Bing around the area yesterday to familiarize her with the route, Yu Bing later remembered that this area would become City S's business area in the future. Every demolition family here had a few shops, and it was in the downtown area. Just the rent alone was enough for the family to live on. That would be passive income. When Xiaoxing heard this, he looked at Yu Bing as if she was delusional. These houses belong to the country. Although the agency gave it to the landlady's family, she only has the right to use it. After the founding of the country, the houses in the city began to be allocated. As a national policy and factory employee benefit, housing was provided by the country and factories. However, before this system was implemented, what the country had to do first was to renovate private property. In other words, all private property would be nationalized and managed by the country. Then, they would pay a low rent to the owner to afford basic living expenses. This decision had both pros and cons, but it benefited the vast majority of people. It integrated internal resources, allowing many ordinary people to obtain free housing. Therefore, as long as a person could enter a factory or work in an agency in this era, they would have everything provided. Freedom to buy and sell houses only happened after the reform and opening up. What was impossible now would happen in the future. Yu Bing couldn't explain, so she smiled and said, "That's hard to say. Times are changing." Xiaoxing knew that Yu Bing often had bold fantasies in her mind, so he shook his head helplessly. After the two of them finished eating, they went to the hospital to deliver the food. After Xiaoxing arrived at the hospital, he went to ask Dr. Min some questions. Yu Bing took the things to the ward first. Just as she reached the door, Yu Bing heard laughter coming from inside. Yu Bing pushed open the closed door and walked in. When the beautiful figure with her back facing the door heard the sound of the door opening, she immediately stood up and turned around. "Brother Xiao, you're here." Announcement: we are moving boxnovel.com to bronovel.com. Please bookmark our new site. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Subscribe and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much. Chapter 488, Pursuit. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Miss Zhao's smile froze when she saw Yu Bing. Then, she stuck her head out and looked behind Yu Bing, but she didn't see Xiaoxing. Miss Zhao restrained her smile when she saw Yu Bing, but her tone was still very gentle. "When I was chatting with Brother Xiao, he said that you were here on official business. Why are you so free as to come to the hospital every day?" Yu Bing could tell that Miss Zhao was showing off her intimacy with Xiaoxing to her. At the same time, she didn't forget to mock her for not doing her job properly and stalking Xiaoxing all day long. Yu Bing was in no hurry to answer. She walked around Miss Zhao and went to the bed to put the food down. The atmosphere tensed up. Xiaolin felt his hair stand on end and he called out to Yu Bing with a smile, then went forward to help take out the food from the bag. Xiaoli turned her head to Yu Bing and smiled sweetly. "Sister Yu Bing, it's so good to have you around. I can finally stop eating my brother's awful cooking. If you weren't busy with work, I would have brought you along on the first day I came." Yu Bing was very relieved when she heard this. She hadn't doted on them in vain. Although Xiaolin was still confused, he vaguely sensed that Miss Zhao's attitude towards Yu Bing didn't seem pleasant, so he went forward to help and didn't look at Miss Zhao anymore. As a girl, Xiaoli was keen and could tell that Miss Zhao was targeting Yu Bing. When she said that, she meant that she wanted Yu Bing to come. The fact that Yu Bing had put down her work amidst her busy schedule meant that Yu Bing and the Xiao family were very close. Yu Bing stroked Xiaoli's head as she complained with a smile, "Your brother is so clumsy. He still has to practice for at least another 10 years. With that, Yu Bing turned to look at Miss Zhao. "Miss Zhao, I don't have to report my work arrangements to you, do I? Even cows have time to rest. It's the new year, but you know how to exploit people better than landlords. Some people didn't deserve respect." Yu Bing wouldn't stand on ceremony if she asked for trouble. When Miss Zhao heard Yu Bing comparing her to an exploitative landlord, she couldn't maintain the gentle expression on her face anymore. She glared at Yu Bing and said, "Stop slandering me. When did I say I wouldn't let you rest? Can't I just ask a question?" Yu Bing smiled aloofly. Interrogation is also a form of questioning. "I'm just answering your question, so why are you so angry?" Since Xiaoxing wasn't around, Miss Zhao rolled her eyes at Yu Bing and left. When Xiaoli heard Miss Zhao leave, she looked up and asked Yu Bing curiously, "Sister Yu Bing, does Sister Zhao like my brother?" Xiaolin's hand that was holding the lunchbox trembled and he immediately turned around to express his opinion. I don't want Sister Zhao to be my sister-in-law. I keep feeling that every time she comes to visit us, her smile is so fake. Xiaolin knew that it wasn't good to speak ill of others behind their backs, but this concerned their family and his brother's lifelong happiness, so he couldn't care less now. Moreover, he still felt that it was best for Sister Yubing to be their sister-in-law. Xiaoli couldn't see, but she could feel that although Miss Zhao came to see her and expressed concern about her every time, she was actually asking about their family's situation and her brother's matters 90% of the time. However, she couldn't chase her away. However, Xiaoli knew that there were many things in her family that couldn't be known to others. Most of the time, she would think of ways to cooperate with her second brother to brush the matter over. Thus, she was very tired every day. Yubing didn't expect Xiaoli to be so keen, so she smiled as she replied, even you can tell, but your brother doesn't know at all. When Xiaoli heard this, she said to Yubing worriedly, Sister Yubing, I don't want Sister Zhao to be my sister-in-law either, but what if my brother likes? Xiaolin frowned when he heard this. If his brother liked her, he really had no choice. When Xiaoxing entered the room, he happened to hear Xiaoli's words. He quickly closed the door and went forward angrily. What nonsense are you talking about? When did I say I like Miss Zhao? You guys are spreading rumors about me? With that, he looked at Yubing nervously. Yubing rolled her eyes and directed her anger towards him. Announcement, we are moving boxnovel.com to bronovel.com. Please bookmark our new site. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Subscribe and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much. Chapter 489, I won't like her in the future either. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Xiaoxing could only say to his siblings, let me tell you, I have nothing to do with Miss Zhao. I don't like her at all. After saying that, Xiaoxing thought for a moment and felt that he wasn't being firm enough, so he added, I won't like her in the future either. Xiaoli and Xiaolin were relieved when they heard this and started eating with relish. Xiaoxing seemed to be saying this to his siblings, but he was actually showing Yubing his determination. When Yubing and Xiaoxing were close together, she said softly, you sound quite firm, but no one knows what will happen in the future. Xiaoxing felt extremely aggrieved that Yubing still looked like she didn't believe him, so he said angrily, then I'll go wherever you go in the future. I'll let you watch me. After Xiaoxing said this, for the next half of the day, he insisted on following Yubing even if she had to go to the bathroom. He was determined not to be beyond 3 meters away from her. Before bed every night, Yubing would go to the public bathroom. To Yubing, she didn't want to use a bucket if she could avoid it. Although there was a lid, it was still in the room. As long as she fell asleep, she usually wouldn't wake up again. Yubing glanced at Xiaoxing, who had followed her out, and pushed him back into the door. I want to go to the bathroom. You're not allowed to follow me. After Yubing left, she heard footsteps behind her and turned to look at Xiaoxing. Xiaoxing didn't look at Yubing, who was annoyed. Yubing lost her temper and said, how immature. Are you a child? Xiaoxing tilted his head and replied softly, I'm only immature in front of you. Xiaoxing followed her without hesitation. After Yubing entered the public bathroom, he waited outside. There were not many people in the alley. Occasionally, 1 or 2 would come to the bathroom like Yubing. When Yubing came out and saw Xiaoxing standing not far away, she felt angry and amused. Then, she went forward and patted Xiaoxing's arm a few times. It was winter, so he was wearing a coat. These few smacks didn't hurt at all. He didn't even feel a tickle. The two of them returned to the rented apartment. After closing the door, Yubing stopped Xiaoxing, who wanted to return to his room. Can you stop fooling around? Xiaoxing suppressed his smile. Then do you believe me now? Yubing immediately nodded. I believe you. Xiaoxing hugged Yubing tightly. As he looked at the little girl in his arms, he gritted his teeth and said, you're not allowed to anger me like this next time. Xiaoxing hadn't followed her for nothing. Yubing had been unpredictable these past 2 days, and his siblings made such a guess today, so Xiaoxing understood after thinking about it for a while. He also knew that Yubing was just feeling uncomfortable. If she really didn't believe him, she would have packed up and left long ago. She wouldn't have given him a chance to follow her. Yubing turned around slightly and pursed her lips to hide her smile. Seeing the smirk on Yubing's lips, Xiaoxing tightened his grip on her arm. Why are you still smiling? Don't you know how I treat you? You're actually jealous over this. Yubing blushed and said stubbornly, who's jealous? I'm happy for you. After all, she's good-looking and has a good family background. If you marry her, it can save you decades of hard work. Xiaoxing smiled when he heard this. What if I want to suffer with you? Will you give me a chance to? Who didn't like sweet nothings? Moreover, they came from a usually slow-witted person like Xiaoxing. Yu Bing looked up at Xiaoxing with her watery eyes and smiled slightly as she said gently, "It depends on your performance." With the person he had been longing for in his arms, Xiaoxing couldn't help but lower his head and kiss Yu Bing's smooth forehead. Yu Bing's heart skipped a beat. Xiaoxing couldn't help but kiss her nose, the tip of her nose, and then her. The moment their lips touched, the two of them felt a sense of numbness, but neither of them could bear to separate, nor did they take things to the next step. They just enjoyed this moment of intimacy. However, men were different from women after all. The close distance between the two of them made Xiaoxing smell Yu Bing's fragrance, and he suddenly felt a sense of desire arise. Xiaoxing kissed Yu Bing hard before finally letting go. Xiaoxing hurriedly said to Yu Bing, "Go to bed early. I'm going back to my room first." Announcement: we are moving boxnovel.com to bronovel.com. Please bookmark our new site. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Subscribe and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much. Chapter 490, Been Through Life and Death Together. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Yu Bing was a little confused when she saw Xiaoxing suddenly run away. Then, she thought of their actions just now and returned to her room with a blush. The next morning, when the two of them first saw each other, they felt that the atmosphere was a little different from before. It was as if the barrier between the two of them had suddenly disappeared. The two of them ate millet porridge, eggs, and sweet potatoes in the morning. After eating, they set off for the hospital together. For the next few days, everything went according to plan. Everyone's learning ground was also transferred from their home to the ward. Shaolin had changed a lot. In the past, whenever he saw books, he would complain. Now, he suddenly seemed to have grown up and realized the importance of learning. He took the initiative to learn things every day and even asked for practice questions from Yu Bing and Xiaoxing. The four of them felt as if they had returned to the He Mountain village. Other than Miss Zhao finding excuses to come to the ward from time to time, everything was peaceful. Ever since Xiaoxing clarified the misunderstanding he had accidentally caused that day, Xiaoxing would take the initiative to avoid Miss Zhao in the hospital. When he couldn't avoid it, he would only say one word to her. However, Xiaoxing's cold attitude didn't make Miss Zhao retreat. Instead, she became even more encouraged. On the 5th day of the new year, Xiaoxing told Yu Bing that he wanted to visit Zhengli. When Xiaoxing thought of how Zhengli had helped him when he brought Xiaoli here, he felt a little embarrassed. It's all thanks to Zhengli that Xiaoli was treated. Until now, I've only treated him to a meal. Zhengli had indeed helped a lot, so Yu Bing nodded and said, "New Year's is the time to visit relatives and friends, so we should visit him. I'll go too. We all know each other, so it's not good for me to stay behind." When Xiaoxing thought of Zhengli-L's family background, he felt that it might not be convenient to visit directly. After the two of them discussed it for a while, they decided to invite Zhengli out for a meal. After the two of them agreed, Xiaoxing called the Zhang family. The person who answered the call happened to be Zhengli. Zhengli was feeling bored at home, so when she heard the invitation, she immediately agreed. Both parties agreed to meet at 5 o'clock. After Zhengli hung up the phone, he said to Lin Shui, "I won't be home for dinner tonight." "You brat, it wasn't easy for me to get you home. Where are you going now?" Zhang Rou's in-laws had a bunch of relatives from her hometown, so she was busy entertaining them until yesterday. After they returned, she took the time to bring her son back to her parents' house. As soon as she entered, she heard that her brother was going out to eat during the new year. Zhengli smiled and said, "A friend came from afar. He wants to thank me by treating me to a meal." "Uncle!" Two boys rushed out from behind Zhang Rou and pounced on Zhengli. Zhengli collapsed on the sofa in an exaggerated manner. "Oh my 2 fat nephews are going to crush me." Zhang Rou's 2 children were 7 and 11 years old. Each of them was more slender than the other. Their nicknames were Big Fatty and Little Fatty. They were at the age when they were unruly troublemakers. However, Zhengli was once the king of the children in the neighborhood and he subdued them in a few moves, so the two of them admired Zhengli very much. Seeing that her sister-in-law only brought the children back, Lin Shui asked with concern, why didn't their father come back? After Zhang Rou placed the box of ginseng she had brought back on the table, she sat on the sofa. "He received an assignment at the last minute this morning, so I had to come back myself." When Zhang Wei saw Zhang Rou return home, he took the opportunity to persuade Zhengli, "It's rare for your second sister to come back for the new year and our family to have a meal together, so why don't you and your friend meet another day?" Zhengli didn't expect his second sister to return either, so he said awkwardly, "I've already promised them." In fact, the main reason was that he also wanted to play with Xiaoxing. After all, even when his family didn't celebrate the holidays together, his family ate together occasionally. They were all in the same place, so it wasn't difficult for them to meet. Moreover, he had already been detained at home for a blind date from the start of the new year to yesterday. It wasn't easy for them to give him a break today, but his brother had found an excuse to let him accompany him until now. Zhang Rou said aloofly, "You and your friends see each other all day long. Accompany me for a meal." When Zhang Li heard this, he immediately retorted, "We're not just ordinary friends. Xiaosheng and I have been through life and death together." Zhang Rou paused when she heard this name. "Is he the friend whose sister is going to have a cornea transplant?" Zhang Li nodded vigorously. "It's him." Zhang Rou had met Xiaosheng and his siblings before. On the first day they came to S City, Xiaosheng brought Xiaoli to the hospital for a checkup. At that time, she happened to be patrolling the hospital with other doctors and saw Zhang Li bringing them to the ophthalmology department, so they greeted each other. Announcement: we are moving boxnovel.com to bronovel.com. Please bookmark our new site. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Subscribe and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much.